They stood shoulder to shoulder in a silent field, pikes locked, waiting. Across the open ground, English banners stirred in the wind. Horses stamped, bows creaked. This was not supposed to be how William Wallace's rebellion faltered. Not here, not like this. The story we expect is simple. Wallace was brave, outnumbered, and doomed by betrayal or fate. A heroic stand, crushed by overwhelming force. The reality is far more unsettling. At Falkirk, William Wallace did almost everything right, and that is exactly why his defeat mattered. Picture a single Scottish spearman tightening his grip on an ash wood pike. Mud clings to his boots. His shield is scarred, his hands raw. He has never seen so many horses in one place. Knights in heavy armor stretch across the horizon, rank after rank, banners snapping in the summer wind. Somewhere behind him, Wallace studies the ground in silence, measuring distance, terrain, time. This moment does not stand alone. A year earlier, Wallace had shattered English confidence at Stirling Bridge. That victory had changed the balance of the First War of Scottish independence. For the first time, England was forced to take the rebellion seriously. And so, in the summer of 1298, Edward I came north himself to restore control. This is not a raid meant to punish. It is a campaign meant to decide the war. Wallace understands what that means. His army is made up mostly of infantry, brave men, but lightly armored, poorly equipped. They cannot survive a full cavalry charge in open ground. So Wallace refuses to fight the battle Edward wants. Instead, he builds a defense. He chooses Falkirk for its uneven terrain and marshy patches, ground that disrupts momentum. His men form tight circular formations called schiltrons, dense rings of long spears pointing outward like thorns. From above, they resemble immovable islands of wood and iron. A charging horse cannot break through without dying. Against cavalry, the schiltron is a wall. But walls have one weakness: they cannot move. Edward reaches the field and immediately understands the problem Wallace has created. And this is where the battle turns quietly. Edward does not charge. He does not test the spears. He does not rush. He waits. English infantry advances cautiously. Welsh longbowmen step forward and spread out. The cavalry stays back, restless but restrained. Edward is not trying to win quickly. He is trying to control the sequence of events. Then the arrows begin to fall. At first it feels distant, single shafts arcing high into the sky. Then the volleys thicken. Wood and iron rain down into formations packed so tightly that men cannot step aside. Shields rise, but gaps remain. Wounded soldiers collapse where they stand, pressed by those behind them. The schiltrons hold, but they cannot respond. They cannot advance. They cannot drive the archers away. They can only endure. And as the minutes pass, pressure becomes visible. Now, look to the flanks. Scotland's cavalry, lightly armored nobles, watches the same field Wallace does. They see the arrows falling. They see the schiltrons pinned in place. They know their own role is limited, their horses vulnerable, their loyalty divided between national cause and personal survival. Whatever their reasons, the decision is made. They turn their horses. They leave. In a single moment, Scotland's mounted elite abandons the field, and Wallace watches his flanks dissolve into empty space. The transition is devastating. The arrow fire does not stop, but now it has an end point. This is the truth Falkirk exposes. Wallace's formation is brilliant defensively, but it is also a trap. It locks his men in place while Edward shapes the battle around them. Edward chooses when pressure is applied and when it becomes fatal. Once the schiltrons are bleeding, tired, and beginning to loosen,
Edward finally acts. The cavalry advances. This time, the charge works. Horses smash into weakened spear walls. Gaps open where wounded men can no longer hold their ground. Infantry pours through the breaks. What were once defensive circles collapse inward, turning discipline into confusion, and confusion into slaughter. This is not a dramatic rout. It is a methodical destruction. Wallace survives. His army does not, and that distinction matters more than the battle itself. Edward wins the field, but he does not celebrate wildly. He understands what this victory truly means. Wallace escaped. The rebellion is wounded, not erased. But something fundamental has changed. The illusion is shattered. Falkirk proves that courage and clever tactics are not enough on their own. Shortly afterwards, Wallace resigns as Guardian of Scotland. Leadership fractures. Authority shifts to men more cautious, more politically connected, but less able to inspire mass resistance. The war continues, but differently, and this is why Falkirk still matters. Because it reveals a truth victories often hide. Wars are not decided by a single brilliant idea. They are decided by who adapts, who controls tempo, and who can sustain pressure over time. Wallace understood war. Edward understood systems. The expectation is that heroes fall because they fail. The reality is harsher. William Wallace lost at Falkirk not because he was reckless or naive, but because his enemy dictated the rhythm of the fight. Falkirk did not end Scotland's struggle, but it taught Scotland how wars are really won, and that lesson still echoes long after the field fell silent.